Computer. And now we are going live on Facebook. First, we go on my page, and then I share to Intuition of the Soul. I'm very excited about this conversation. I've really enjoyed going back and reading the book a second time to boot. So just waiting
This
for
is
us.
really fun, and I'm excited for the next round of books.
Well, I have a question about development. Will your character remain?
Say that again?
Is your character going to remain?
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
she's the main character in all the stories.
um, so I have a question about her love interest, of course, because,
Oh,
I'm a
there's
romantic at heart. All right, I'm going to share the Intuition of the Soul. All right. Well, hello, everyone on Intuition of the Soul. I'm here with Donna Campbell, and I hope if you're joining us for this book discussion that you jump on with us. But I will also be watching on Intuition of the Soul itself, um, and um, see what's going on. So, Donna, I am so enjoying this. Look, I've got little tabs
I
for
love it.
questions and all kinds of things. Um, what I'd like to start this with, and please, again, anyone who's watching, please feel free to join us. We do have some people watching um, with our book tonight. I love your opening crop. Trust and you will see, believe and you will know, have faith, all is well. Follow your heart and the spirit will lead you.
Yeah.
That and that kind of sums up where we are when we talk about this book. So I know we talked a little bit about it when you were on the program, but can you tell me like how this started and like what because you do have okay, I've got your other books. I do want it to say financially fit, the art of connection, and you also list your courses. So your first
Yeah.
book was financially fit, right?
Yes. Yes. So the very first book I wrote was called Financially Fit: Living the Secrets to an Abundant and Prosperous Life. And I really made some revelations between when I was a financial advisor and a managing principal of an investment firm, and then moving into the world of healing, because I was seeing these parallels to how money is an energy outside of us, but it is a direct reflection of what's going on the inside. And then how you think and feel about yourself is how money responded. And it was very prevalent in the healing work. So I was inspired to write that book. I did channel parts of it. There was some fun, amazing pieces that came out of it, but it didn't really turn out to my heart's desire, to what I really wanted it to be. So last year, well, 2 years ago, I decided that I was going to rewrite the book. And then a dear friend of mine said, Donna, if you're going to rewrite the book, why not just give it a new title? You're going to have to get a new ISB number anyway, and then just do a new book. And so I did. And I put together a bunch of different titles, came up with The Abundant Soul, Creating Inner Wisdom for Financial Success. And I was just going to do a rewrite instead of a second edition. And then when the book cover got created, I kept going, that's a novel. That's a novel. And I didn't know how to write a novel. And then the very next person that I meet goes, that's a self-help novel, and this is how to do it. And so I learned. So I had the book title, I had the cover, it was a novel. And so what I did was I took the principles from Financially Fit and wove them into a storyline to apply. Now, what's really interesting about The Abundant Soul is um I went back. I have writings and I have it here. Let me pull it up for you guys. And I know all you guys are that are watching. I have this other journal. I love to
And
remember.
by the way, if you're watching, please feel free to join us on the Zoom. I know Nancy's watching, a couple other people who have the book. We'd love to have you come and be a part of the conversation. So,
This was a book that was given to me. It's a journal,
oh,
handmade
beautiful.
out of Costa Rica, is made out of banana leaves. There's only two of these with this pattern in the world. And I was starting to go through this after I wrote The Abundant Soul and found page after page where I wrote the soul's abundance. So the book was already within me. I just didn't know. It just needed to be refined. And so some of my cliff notes and stuff are in this journal.
Wow, that's a beautiful, beautiful book.
Yes.
So, well, first of all, I'm going to ask you about the main character's name
Yeah.
as we get into that. And there's a couple names in there. Is it? Do you say Sita?
Sita, yes.
Okay,
Like a bodhisita, yes,
okay. Because I'm going to ask because I know that they all have purposes
they
and
do.
how they were developed. Because there's and one of the people that's watching is in the process of having her memoir published. And
Hmm.
so it's very interesting listening to both of you, your friends of mine, talk about this process, having a book in you. And both of you, by the way, are talking about the next books as the other books are rolling out. So I find that absolutely fascinating
Hmm.
because I'm terrified at the thought. So anyway, tell us about Crystal and somehow you got some of the names and all of those things.
Yes. Obviously, putting together the main character's name, Crystal. If you know anything about me, I love crystals. I love
Oh yeah,
rocks. They're
just take a look
everywhere around my
behind
house.
you.
Not that you can see it in my background,
And
but
that's
they're
real. By the
everywhere.
way, that's not a virtual background. That is for real.
So
These are
this
real.
is my real background. We can reach out and touch them. It's not a virtual. But I didn't want to have the typical CRYSTAL. And I started looking at different variations and came across KRISTOL, which is a Greek spelling. And I love Greece. I've been there once this last year on my birthday. I plan on going back. And I had some really profound spiritual awakenings when I was in Greece. So why not name the main character Crystal with a Greek spelling? Why not?
Well, and of course, I love that because what Donna and I have in common is I did her solar return on her birthday, where she crossed four timelines
I
and
did.
it was an incredible thing to be looking up and figuring and stuff. So, it was, oh, look, Nancy has joined us. Nancy, this is the person who's working on a book.
Nice.
Good, yay. Um, and so, um, yeah, and
I
I love
had like
Crystal.
a I had like a 34-hour birthday
You did
that
have like a 34-hour birthday.
it
So,
was great.
Nancy, this is Donna. Donna, this is Nancy.
Hi,
Hello, welcome.
thank you. I'm so glad I could be here. I do things with books
Yes.
that help me remember the special parts. So I put little tabs on the
Look at,
parts that
can you
are
see the
memorable.
colors on it?
Oh my goodness.
Like
Oh my
that
goodness.
is
That's
like,
a lot.
yeah, but I mean about and I mean, you had me right from beside Evelyn stood her older sister Emily. I was just like, oh my God, that's my daughter's name, and it's very, very special to me. So I was just enamored with every word from before then and after. It's so powerful. And it's so much fun to read. The style, epic.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. And that's what I said to her. Oh, just a minute. I have to plug in my computer, which is sitting right here, the plug, but I just didn't have it in the computer. And it decided to warn me, so I'm grateful because otherwise this conversation would be very tough.
Right? Gotta love that warning. It's like beep, beep, beep,
Yes.
beep.
Um, so we were just talking about that. I mean, that's what got me from the beginning, and I've already talked the story. Well, first of all, the car accident.
Yeah.
That is such a connection in my own life because, and I've told this story at times where I was driving along. I was a teacher of the blind. I was thinking, and I was already starting to go. I was 25, 26, and what it felt like was an energetic hand that what happened was I was going through a intersection, actually going onto the highway because it was right across, and somebody couldn't see around a truck, and I T-boned them.
Mhm.
But what it felt like immediately was that was a hand that just said, stop. And that was such a connection with Crystal.
Yeah.
Stop and evaluate. So again, John, tell us a little about how you went from this financial fit and have this kind of
Yeah.
started for you.
I wrote out the main principles from Financially Fit and really thought about the storyline. And of course, you want to start with a hook. And one of the big catalysts for change for a lot of people really is a car accident, for many. And I was
An
really
accident, a
surprised.
vehicle accident. So yeah.
Right. And I was really surprised at that when I was doing a little bit of research. I had my own 25 years ago, where my body took the impact, not the car, on black ice, and so that's how I started the book. But then how do you take that concept that we all go through, make it relatable, and then start weaving in all of the money issues that come along with it? So it was a lot of fun writing it and putting it together because it wasn't just, here's the words on a page. I was imagining if it was a movie, how do you go from one scene to the next, to the next, to the next, to allow the story to organically unfold, but still illustrate the principles and the points and the takeaways you want people to have.
Yeah, you know, my first bookmark, so I can see that Nancy has equally as many. Um, and she's equally as many, and I've read the whole book twice, and I know she's still working on the book. So,
Yeah.
is, you know, for me, the whole piece in the hospital, the unwinding, the mom coming in, and her feeling, which it was like exactly how I felt, like there's a world happening here,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm watching a world I used to be in.
Yes.
Um, and that was fascinating. That's actually what really did hook me. Um, and as I read through it and I thought about it, and her relationship with Emily, all of a sudden she's really looking at a value. It almost felt like the character never had evaluated any of those relationships up to that point in a way of, I have a choice in here to look
Yeah.
at this differently. Um, and I think that that's a real similarity with how we are with money. We don't think we have any choice about our relationship with it,
But
or
we
with abundance in general. Um, and so anytime you want, I know Nancy, you're not shy, you'll be jumping right in. So and Nancy's her life was all around an accident as well. So yeah.
Well, and it's the pivotal moment in our lives where we either move forward into the unknown, into that uncertainty, which is scary, right? Or we settle. We settle for less. We settle for less happiness. We settle for less of so many things. And it's why we stay in the relationships. The first part that got me was the corporate world had proven to be a challenging landscape. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Despite her best efforts, her talents remained unnoticed, undervalued, and underappreciated by those on the executive team. The frustration of giving it her all without acknowledgement had worn her down, leaving her exhausted and overworked.
Mm-hmm.
How often do we hear our friends say that when they get like, I'm just so
All the
tired?
time.
All the
All
time.
the time. And it's something that I experienced when I was in the corporate world many years ago. And I still see it to this day. So it's a common theme for a lot of people, absolutely, because it just goes by unnoticed.
Well, I mean, there's songs that are written to exemplify it. Working 9 to 5.
Exactly.
Like, it's such a catchy tune, right? Like, oh my God, then there's also that take this job and shove it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And how do we take that leap of faith while trusting in this uncertain unknown when we have been scathed so many times by life.
Yeah.
And it's our perception of what that skating is. In chapter 2, return to reality, and what truly is reality. And you know, that's when we meet her friend. Now, do you have her friend Sarah, who I absolutely adore in this book, because she's not, so many times in the spiritual world, we meet new spiritual people. And it's not that Sarah isn't, but that isn't her role in Crystal's life at all.
Mm.
Right. It's not. It's
Um,
not just an everyday person that's a friend who when I think about friendship and stuff, I often think of all the ones that here's all the advice you should be following, and then you watch them do the exact opposite, and you're like, wait a minute here. And so, all of the characters in the book, there's part of it that is me, but then a part of it that's not me. So just like Shakespeare created all of his works, he created all of the characters. And those characters were an aspect of Shakespeare, but also each of the characters had their own personality and persona and life force of their own. And if we were to relate that to spiritual matters, um, with our creator, with the universe, that aspect is in you, but you also have your own personality and your own persona as well as an expression of that greater truth. And so there's many, many different parallels in how this story was put together and how it was woven. It's like you're the ocean, but you're a drop of the ocean, and the drop of the ocean has everything the ocean has, but yet it has its own personality. So it was a lot of fun. So there's aspects of me throughout all the characters, but also aspects of a lot of people that I know, or I borrowed this or took this piece, and some of the characters had their own life form.
yeah, I mean, I so enjoyed Sarah. There seemed to be something about her that, without naming it in the spiritual realm and whatever, she was just living it, absolutely living it and understanding something. And for the character, as the book goes on, Sarah becomes a kind of lighthouse of, well, she understands a simplicity that Crystal didn't,
Yeah.
and was trying to so much uh, figure out. And they had already had the connection, so it was at that level anyway. It's just, as the book goes on, she's kind of trying to figure out, how did this, and that I certainly know is part of my awakening. How do I return to reality and understand I have a completely different view of that? As the astrologer, I'm a Virgo North Node, and part of that is accepting the mundane, the everyday, what is nature and the patterns, as beautiful as the big spiritual sweeping. How
Mhm.
do you learn to do that? Sarah, for me, I know that Donna talked about people identify with different characters. Sarah, to me, is a goal. Like, how do you live so simply and just have? uh, There was a joyful. She's a joyful character. She absolutely is in this book. So, it, every time and the sister Emily
Mhm.
is the antithesis. You know, are
Yeah.
you ever finding, Donna, that as people talk about your book, you have your own ahas? Like, well, I didn't mean that, but that's something that comes
I
out.
do. I do. And the very first moment that I had that aha moment was actually when Bob Doyle wrote the foreword for the book. Now, he's a best-selling author, New York Times, was featured on The Secret. I'm incredibly honored to have him write the foreword. Now, what was interesting with Bob was he said, I need to read your manuscript first. Now, my manuscript was ready to go into editing. And I'm like, well, here's my pre edited version of it. And he said, thank you, read it, and then wrote the foreword. And this was one of my ahas that I had. And I didn't even consider this when I was writing the book. And in the foreword, he talks about one of the teachers, Stuart, that when Crystal goes on this healing retreat, there's this instructor, and he related a lot to the teachings of the instructor. And I thought that that was really interesting because he related to a character. And I didn't realize that it would other people would relate to different characters. And so one of the common threads that happens now is when people tell me about the book or that they read it, they often tell me what character they really resonate to. And they're all different. Some of them are the same, but they all relate to somebody in the book. And I just find that phenomenal. That tells me that it was well written to have that relatability on a lot of different levels. And Bob Doyle was the very first one, and that was one of my biggest aha moments.
That's
It's
so,
the universal truths that are weaving throughout it. I mean, who cannot resonate with these words as she continued to review the bills, right? I mean, how many of us don't sit there and look at that stack of bills? Crystal's mind drifted back to the dreamlike world she had experienced during her accident. The vibrant colors and possibilities of abundance contrasted sharply with the financial constraints and fears that now consumed her. Her mind wandered to the flower petals where they blackened with fear and became vibrant with happiness. It was as if she had glimpsed a reality where limitations didn't exist.
Yeah.
And there is that reality. And it is that childlike wonder that Kitty was talking about. And as soon as you get into that vibration and you start telling people, slam dunked,
Yep.
right?
wow.
You're nuts, you're crazy, you're a whack job, all those
Right.
things. Because if you can't be in that mindset where it is truly
Mm-hmm.
limitless.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the challenges, that contrast there with what you were talking about, is that we know we're unlimited, we're limitless beings, we have all of this abundance as our birthright, but yet in our everyday reality, here are the bills, I have to work, I have to that, I have to XYZ. So, how do we really transition from that into this knowing that we have and cross that threshold? And how does that really work? And so it's kind of an interesting dichotomy because we know we want to create this world, but how do we apply it in our everyday lives? And that's the journey that Crystal goes on.
And truly, there were so many times where I was like, I know that thought. I know that fear. I still have that thought. I still have that fear, as I love that passage you picked because I remember reading it going, but how do you do that? How do you get there? How do there's a lot, I guess I'm going to be an astrologist tonight. There's a lot of this that fits into where the world's placement of this Libra South Node is. How do I let go of the beliefs that I thought brought me balance, that I thought brought me that will, that I thought and have bought into to believe, and yet I don't I don't feel the spiritual abundance, and I'm certainly not seeing the financial abundance. So something in that belief is what we're trying to move away from. And this is such a way for me to look at money differently. And I know we've had those conversations, Donna, but it really, and this character, it pulls it out of being Kitty Buttigieg Foss.
Yeah.
And oh, I could think that. And what you said, Nance, how do I let this go and let the colors come forth? And she so often looks at her stack of bills or her mortgage or her commitment, and I love her mother.
We do that, Kitty. We
Yeah,
open up we've got our virtual bank account of possibilities and everything's so wonderful. And then we open up the app on our bank account, right? We're like, oh my God, where'd all my money go?
right.
Damn no fees or whatever it is. That's the reality. And how do we continue to have faith to move forward? Trust in happiness. It will guide you on your path. Oh my God. Page 69. I was born in 69. Really cool.
I love it.
Well, and her mother, Evelyn, is a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And we all have those all have those gatekeepers. And I love how the character kind of looks to her mother, and God bless this mother who doesn't know what her daughter's talking about, but she doesn't tell her no either. Unlike her sister who shows her more limits.
Yes.
Her mother just I, she changes the subject. How many times have people done that? You know,
Right.
let me just change the subject a little bit here. Yeah, because I on page 37, one of the ones that I highlighted, Crystal sighed, her feelings of vulnerability intensified by Sarah's message, which was, "Hope you have a first great day back at work." Like she's looking at this character. I love the character Sarah. And and this would be me. As the evening wore on, Crystal couldn't escape the relentless anxiety that takes hold of her.
Yeah.
It could say that takes hold of me. She always had been diligent about her finances, but the accident had shaken her sense of security. The mounting bills and dwindling savings left her feeling trapped, and with a heavy heart, she knew she had to take action. Now, how many of us have gotten there and thought, what is the action?
Yeah.
So,
All of us. Every single one of us.
right.
Mhm.
It truly is. And so, if you're watching, we have quite a few people watching. If you're watching, this is a great way to take those secret thoughts that you thought only you have and go, oh my God, that's me. Especially people don't write stories about money. They don't.
Don't talk about money. That's like talking about
Yeah.
sex, Kitty.
Yeah, there's
Right.
like shame. We all have a lot of,
There is. And, even with my own background where I grew up, I remember working through some of my old money beliefs and my own mom at the time when I was little saying, money is an intimate topic only between you and your husband, and you don't talk about money to anybody outside of who you're married to. There's no discussion. And I choose a career to become a financial advisor, and I'm sitting there and I'm talking about money every single day for 10 years. And coaching people and showing them the pathway if we do this and budget this and do that. But then I learned also that's not the pathway either, because if you're not in that inner alignment, it doesn't matter what you do on the outside, it's just not going to happen. So there's another truth, and that's what I was hoping and desiring to bring forward within the abundant soul, is because it's on the inside, it's not outside of you.
I used to laugh and say, no, I know money doesn't buy me happiness, but lack of it certainly guarantees a level of misery. It's-
See,
and
and that's all gets based on perspective too, because I
yeah,
know people who are multimillionaires that have come to me as clients who have said, Donna, I just don't know what makes me happy. And yet they can go buy everything. And I've known a person who didn't have money, had a lot of money, decided it was too much problems to have a lot of money, got rid of it all, and went back to simply living off the land and living a simple life because it was easier. So it's all perspective, and it's all about what's going to bring and generate you that internal happiness. And oftentimes we think having a lot more money will just do it, but you have to be good and solid and grounded with who you are, and really what brings you happiness on the inside and what that means. And if you don't know what that is, it doesn't matter what's in your bank account.
it truly doesn't. And um, even as I say that, I laugh about it. Um, but the guarantee of misery is my shame, as we're talking about around money or not having enough or having to ask for help or you know um all of the things we're told about money and it being this energy thing. Joanne just shared on here. For me, I see every bill as a check written out to spend and invest. And I'm sure that those are things in our perceptions we start to look at, and certainly Crystal did and continue to. Um, the character that to me is, I want to ask you about how you chose her, is Sita, the,
Yeah.
the meeting of Sita. So, not to tell the whole story, but if you're watching it, you probably looked at the book or in the future. Sita is the it's not an accident. She's the intervention, the energy of intervention that comes as Crystal puts out to the universe these questions of why do I see this now? And, you know, for me and looking at Sarah, but she's so happy with this. Why can't I just be as happy kind of thing? So
Mhm.
can you talk to us a little bit about Sita? Because it's a
Yes.
big, important twist in the book.
She's a huge character in the book, and actually I modeled Sita after a person that I know as the medicine woman. And it was somebody that I met, I studied with. I do call her the medicine woman. I tell fun stories about her. She was the one of my most profound teachers that I've had in this lifetime. Her first name is actually Leandra, and she was tough. And there was a point in my life where some decisions had to be made. I reached out for help and she told me no. And then I didn't know what I was going to do because she was the only person that I knew how to reach out to where I was at in my life. And she did not enable me, but she empowered me. So I got out of a really interesting situation and moved forward. But a lot of the things that she taught me was looking on my inside and trusting myself. And really, the sense of humor Sita has in this book was really the medicine woman's sense of humor. She would come up with the strangest analogies that made perfect sense at the time. And it was such a profound time of my life. I just left living in an ashram. It's a spiritual living community. Was going back and starting to integrate back out into the world. Somebody attempted to take my life. And when I
Oh,
reached out
see,
to
I like
her
how
for
you,
the help,
when you tell
that's
the
my
story, she said,
personal
somebody
story.
attempted to take my life, like that
Yeah,
happened to all of
that
us.
just
Like,
happened. Yeah,
yeah.
it does.
Mhm.
No, no, but I mean, really, that's what it was. But she found a way to tell me no. I did it on my own, and I was so incredibly liberated from that experience. And so, in taking that lesson in my own personal life, obviously that does not happen in this story. Um, she liberates Crystal in a different way. And I think that's so incredibly important because we all have heroes, we all have mentors in our lives that provide that little piece of wisdom that liberate you into that next layer. And Sita actually is a Sanskrit word, meaning, when I was doing some research, the mind of the heart. And so that's why, like, you hear the words Bodhicitta and others. So Sita is mind of the heart. And my business, it's called
I've been
Healing
trying not
Heart.
to burst
Everything
out
is a
laughing
matter
with
of the
Mama
heart.
Sita. Mama Sita
Yeah,
was just calling to me. Had
yeah,
to get it out.
exactly. And so what better character than to have Sita, the mind of the heart, which is the mind of your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I love about Sita and the development of this character is kind of what you've described with the medicine woman. She doesn't tell her what to do, and she doesn't want her to look at her as a seer, a sage, follow me.
Mm.
I love how she physically shows up and then goes away, and shows
Yeah.
up and goes away,
And
and
sometimes not there at all.
not there at all. Even when Crystal
Right.
asks for her, and you can almost feel the, damn, where are you? This is like, I'm
Right?
really confused, and you bring me light. And Sita says, "But you can do this on your own." Uh,
Yeah.
it's an amazing character to me, and the colors, as I was reading this, and that's the only way I can describe it, guys, is the colors that were going through my mind as Sita appeared. Um, Kind of reminded me of my childhood view of when the fairy godmother appears in Cinderella. You
Hmm.
know, she doesn't, and the fairy godmother is a very similar character. She doesn't come to tell her what to do. She comes to show her kind of the magic that already exists around her. So, um, we all need a Sita in our life, and it doesn't have to always be a person. It can be a book. It can be a, a place. You
Hmm.
know, and sometimes we have many of them.
Yes. And it's all about returning to that inner wisdom and that inner balance inside.
Hmm. It, yeah, it's amazing. Nancy, have anything you want to add at this?
There's just so much that's relatable in it, no matter which way you're looking at the story, because we've all got different stories that we relate to, movies, television, whatever it may be. And when you were talking about the fairy godmother, I was thinking of in the movie Scrooged, the one fairy who comes to the main character in the movie. And I mean, her wake up call for him was a toaster swinging through the air, like just that smack.
Oh, the one that played the Ghost of the Past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Bernadette somebody, I think. I can't remember. But we have those memorable people in our lives that will change us. They're not necessarily always the wonderful fairy type people, right? Sometimes
Right.
the biggest nemesis in our life
Mhm.
can be that person as well. And once we are able to see that, game changer. Because
Yeah.
then we move from being a victim into something greater. And we've all got that ability unless we're sitting there whining in our poo.
Exactly. Exactly. And what I find so fascinating is that you guys brought up the name or the title fairy godmother, because another friend of mine over the last year is that's what he calls me.
Oh,
And it's hilarious. And it's like, good morning, fairy godmother. And it's like, okay, if you're showing up, then either something significant is going to happen in my life. It's going to cost me a lot of money, but then I know it comes back, or, it's like this, or here's our next adventure, and so we joke about that because magic just happens. And if you're in that alignment, there it is.
Yeah, I'm learning that actually from you, where when we make decisions, the things that follow us are in alignment. They like come from the universe and say, "See, now this is where you're supposed to be." So now I wrestle with, well, damn, then there must be some I'm not at. So like, where am I out of alignment? Um, on page 75, this is after she's met Sita, and um, she's talking to Seth, and I love this part. Crystal's uncertainly hung in the air as she searched for answers within herself. I so understand this passage. Apprehensive. You know, Seth, as much as I believe in the idea of inner happiness, I'm not entirely sure what it looks like for me. It's like trying to find a hidden treasure without a map. And so it was like when she met Sita, Sia said, "There's a map inside you," and she's like, "Well, where is it?" And then Sia's gone.
Exactly.
I got a
Exactly.
star. I wrote the word "me" because and the characters just exchange smiles, and she goes back to a spreadsheet
Mhm.
and kind of
Yep.
looks at it like, "Okay, this is not my map. I realize this is not my map." So but that in particular, that line hung for me. Like I know it's there, but and
Where?
it's hidden, but does it have to be so hidden? Like. And
Yeah.
I need some more North Stars here.
I think that's a huge piece with what you're saying there, because we don't know what brings us happiness, and we don't know how to look or where to find that internal map for us. And years and years ago, I had an employer. She would come into the office. Are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy? And over the whole course of the summer, it was got to the point that if you saw her, you ran the other way because you didn't want to answer the question. Because I like, well, yes, I'm happy. Well, am I really? It gave me doubt. And then it was like, well, you know, I'm 76% happy. Well, wait, why aren't I not, 100% happy? And then you start focusing on the wrong thing. What brings you non-happiness? And so I had all of these different ways to quantify happiness. And it wasn't until I sat down for me personally and started writing in what I would call a happiness journal, like a gratitude journal, but what really brought you happiness. And what I discovered for myself is what truly brought me happiness was having connection, real connection to real people, authentic and genuine. And those to me were priceless. And that was a theme that was in my own happiness journal. So that's my internal map. I never wrote about money. I never wrote about what money would do or what vacation I might be on or whatever. I didn't write about any of those things. I wrote about when my son was in boot camp for the military, and my only form of communication with him was letters, and the day that a letter would arrive. And that was, of course, during COVID. and how much joy that really brought me. And so it was those authentic, genuine connections. And that's my map to happiness.
I love the idea of a happiness journal. I mean, I've heard of gratitude journals um and kind of it, if I'm writing a happiness journal, I've got gratitude because I'm happy. I mean, joy. Um, Nancy's her whole program is called Recovering Joy. So I'm sure she's inside going ding 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 ding, you know, with all of that. And um that's it. That's an incredibly powerful tool, Donna, to really look at because we don't. And when they talk about things that come to us, like how this character puts it out there, I need. And then here on page 91, I'm walking around with these little notes so I can make sure I put my little,
I
I
love it.
I'm a dog ear person. I do everything you're not supposed to do in library books. I corner them, I fold
I
them,
do the same. I
My
write
on
writing
my
list.
them,
own.
Right.
underline.
Yeah, here I wrote happiness journal on the bottom as I'm talking to you. I do everything. As a teacher, I was a teacher that I would tell children not to do to my books. Meanwhile, I'm over here.
It's
I,
well
I
loved.
have a whole folding system that's an organization system. Like when I would read an educational, well, if it was folded in half, that was because I needed to look for the points that were coming behind it. A main, I really just okay. So on page 91 is when something comes to her. Um, she she gets a flyer. It
Yeah.
just comes to her. She put it out. She wanted to find it. The decision surprised her that she made it. She couldn't explain why she felt compelled to go there, but it was an invisible force taking her, just like it kept taking her to the place that she saw Sita. And then she said, all of a sudden, um, you know, uh, she's felt these pings, like from the woman with the decorations, and said, "Oh, Sita's around here somewhere." The depth of knowledge around flowers that she took her to, all of the things. But these were, I would call them nigglings or little synchronicities. And then the big one happens when um, Lydia investigates and says, "What's this?" And she holds up the flyer for people to see about this retreat.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, the character is never the same. It's like something else sprung to her. And what's been interesting as I've gone through to read this a second time, I read this when I was in Montana, um, was something has come to me recently about that very map internally. Something called, I watched something called The Parentified Daughter. And it was me. And it was a map to we talk about journals. When I was 28, I climbed in my car and traveled for a year by myself, a little less than a year. And I met many people and I wrote in these journals. And I have tried to go back and read them. And the one thing that was driving me crazy in that I was like, will I ever meet a guy? Like I would have these really great thoughts. I was reading Gary Zukav's Seed of the Soul. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden I'd be like, will I ever meet him? And blah, blah, blah. But learning about a parentified daughter, I found a whole new legend for my map about part of the characteristic is you have a real need to find somebody outside to see you. And
Mhm.
that's so now I'm kind of excited to get back to Florida because I want to read the journals without going, oh God, and shutting them, going, why did she write like that? Because I can say, there that is again, and pull
Yeah.
the other things out. To me, that's my flyer right now. Oh, let me find out a little bit more about this. So that was very, very cool how she put it out there and it showed up.
Mhm.
Um, what
And in life, that's how it works in life. We have these little nudges or these little synchronicities, or we have this moment and it's being curious about it and wondering about it and then asking questions and then following through. Otherwise, it would just be a flyer that was left behind on the table. But that's really how the universe is talking to you.
Mhm. And you know, um, there have been times in my life, and I've said this to other people, especially doing astrological charts. Don't worry. If you miss it the first time, the universe is going to bring it back to you again. You know, you keep putting it out there, and why haven't I seen this before? That's a waste of time. I either wasn't ready or the universe had it wasn't time. So it's been um it was really interesting when the flyer happens. And the flyer doesn't happen till almost more than halfway through the book.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so and I truly love, Donna, that you spend so much time. Well, Nancy, you've talked about it with his character and how they think and how they, you know,
Yeah. The writing experience is not for the faint of heart or the weak of skin, because it is beyond challenging. I'm still gobsmacked by my own experience, and the character development. We get to a point whereby we fall in love with the characters. And for me, with the writing of a memoir, I had to find a way to resolve the relationship with many of the naughty characters in my story. Like, thanks. My daughter gave me that word, my good word, but we have to find a way, because otherwise, even in journaling, the experience of journaling can pull you down to a very, very deep, dark place in your mind where you're focusing more on what you had, the crap that you had, that you get absorbed in that. And then you don't notice little gifts along the way. When a girlfriend sends you a text message, I had a girlfriend of mine, she sent me a picture of a box of cheap white wine. I'm like, I'm in, see you Saturday night. But those kind of beautiful experiences that 5 years ago I would have never allowed myself, the abundance of friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so will you talk to me about Sita and the coin? Because that appeared, I loved that you used a coin because we're talking about financial abundance. But
Yeah.
honest to God, that didn't occur to me till the second reading through. I'm like, oh, we're talking about money. So
And I'm like this, like, not there yet. I'm not there yet.
we won't go too much further on some of that because you're not quite there yet. But
Yes.
so
Teasing.
In Financially Fit, I talk about this principle called 4 sides to a quarter. And there really are 4 sides to a quarter. We know heads and tails. If you're smart, you can look at the ridge, but there's also the space in between. And that space in between is programmable. And then if you can program that in the space in between, which is the crux of the healing work that I do for other people, reprogramming that space in between to get them the result that they are looking for, then all things become possible. You can't really see it here. I'll move my computer. There's a sign up there that says believe, for with God, all things are possible. And so it's from that point of view that if it's programmable, it's possible, then anything is instantaneous and can be there. And so, in talking about 4 sides of a quarter, it's one of the lessons that Crystal goes through, learning not just duality, but really how to go to the space within to get the result that you're looking for in the outward. And based on how you're feeling on the inside, is what's going to shift and change your world on the outside. And so, it's a metaphor, the 4 sides to a quarter, but it doesn't matter if it's your phone, the book, the desk. There's always the space in between everything if you go into quantum physics. And that's a bunny trail conversation, but I'm a
yes.
physics nerd. I'll say that.
Oh, I am too. I think we've talked about this. I followed Nassim Haramein. I was hooked, you know, quantum tunneling, things that as I'd never heard of, but now I'm absolutely fascinated.
Some of
But I
it
love
reads
that.
like poetry to me, and
Yeah,
you're looking at math equations.
yeah. Um, you know, and I'm so glad you understand them. I'll go with you. Tell me what it means, and I'm going to believe you, kind of thing. Um, but I love that because it is the space. That's where all the possibilities talk about, and you know, there's an energy in that space, and we're talking about the energy of financial abundance. What does that actually mean? People, the word abundance in general, that's one of those conversations about words. you know. And, I remember meeting someone who said, be careful when you ask for abundance that you have a little quantifier of it. Because abundance can be abundance of worry, which the character started with around
Yeah.
finances and shame and uncertainty and, you know, um, and Crystal goes back about this coin. She constantly goes back to that once she kind of has an understanding of that. So I'm not going to go too much further in the book. First of all, we don't have that much time. I may invite you back for another part as other people finish it and they see this. Chapter 11, my favorite number. By the way, of course, 4 sides is stability. The number 4 is stability in numerology. Of course, chapter 11, you could just say Kitty's chapter, in search of answers. Um,
I
you know, Crystal navigated through the winding path lined with the flower that she is now understanding she has to look and she needs to grasp the deep inside behind the words. And for me, that's a huge, if you wanted me to pick a line, that what is this book about? It's to grasp the insights behind the words.
Yeah.
That's so, so important. Nancy, have any last minute things you want to say or ask? And of course, this is not the end of the Crystal story, is it, Donna?
No, I hope not.
We leave you with a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of story. There isn't there there's so many stories that are eternal stories. Kitty and I were talking about Charlotte's Web last week, and we won't go down that rabbit hole.
Mhm.
Like those eternal stories that touch us, that have memorable characters that are there to teach us, so
Yeah.
that we can too learn, grow, and develop into a greater possible version of ourselves. Like, wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
I
going,
mean, when I went across the country, I mentioned that trip. Who did I follow? Laura Ingalls Wilder. I wanted to see the places of the little house because I felt like I had lived in Laura's head,
Mhm.
you know? And I just realized recently, as much as I read those books, I never read the songs. I don't know if you guys read those books, but they always had these songs that Pa would sing
Yeah.
and they would put the words and I would skip over it. And so now I'm like, well, I'm going to go get some of those books and read the songs because
Nice.
I have friends now because there was a meaning behind the words that even though I followed this woman, I still didn't quite tune into. So Nancy, have any last words you'd like to say? Yeah, because the cliffhanger is good. It's a good cliffhanger.
It's a beautiful read. It truly is. And I think that that's what these upcoming fall and winter months gift us with. We can sit and whine about the weather, or we can sit
Or you go
and
to Florida.
for a beautiful cup of tea, Sassy, and and enjoy the place that you're at while you figure out how to get the abundance so that you can be in the
Yeah.
place that you want to be, because it is both the physical place and the emotional place. Like they're both there. That dream that you have of the $1 million so you can do these things. It's about the feeling.
It is
It's the
always
space. It
the
really,
faith between.
it is the space beneath that. How about you, Donna? Do you have any final words? I mean, she had some lovely questions and I have them all pulled up and I didn't go over any single one of them. So
I loved it. You know,
read it
the thing
though.
about
So, and
the
then I want Donna, I mean, how does the abundant soul redefine your understanding of abundance? What fears do you need to transform into opportunities for growth? I'm going to use the journal and actually answer these. So I'm going to type these out for people.
I love
Nancy, you probably really like them too.
Mhm.
In what way does Crystal's journey resonate with your own life experience? How can you align your heart and mind to achieve financial success? What challenges from Crystal's story inspires you to push forward? How do the lessons in the abundant soul help you cultivate the inner peace? What role do relationships play in your quest for fulfillment as illustrated in this book? That is my favorite question. That is question 7. There are 10 questions. How does the concept of inner abundance reflect in your daily life? What practices from the book could you adopt to improve your health and happiness? How do you define your personal uh, purpose based on the insights from the abundant soul? Actually, there are 15, so I'm going to stop there because I will type them back out because I think they're great journal. I don't think Donna developed it that way. And look, again, the ahas that happened. So anyway, Donna, give us your
Yeah.
final words. And thank you so much for this. Thank you for the
Yeah,
book.
absolutely.
Really. Whoops.
I'm just
Whoops.
going to go back to that mantra that you started with earlier, that mantra. I wrote that many years ago when I was starting to go through a lot of difficult times in my life. My health failed, my marriage ended, I was left financially devastated, all of these things. And so while I was going through all those hard, difficult times, the fears, the doubts, the disbeliefs, all the things that Crystal went through, this mantra came to me, and it is trust and you will see, believe and you will know, have faith, all is well, follow your heart, and spirit will lead you. And when you really tap into that space inside of you, your own in between space, and follow truly what's in the heart space in a vibration of love energy, and you ignite the faith, the trust, and the belief, that is where all things become possible. Those are the 3 keys to prosperity every single day.
I absolutely love that. So will you come back in a couple
Always.
months
Yes.
and talk more about this? And of course, you know, we
Yes.
want a preview,
The
you know,
manuscript will be done for the next book by then.
for the next one. And there is a journal that comes with this. And do I have that out? No.
Mine's somewhere too. I'm just like so.
And you have some guidelines in the front. It is not a journal where it's with a prompt, but I am going to type these out because, you know, maybe in the next round you'll add these because they're really great questions. Um, you know,
Would be
one of them
great
is
book club questions.
great. Yeah. What is the lesson from the abundant soul that will apply to your life? You know, Nancy, you can't answer that yet because you got to finish the book. And you know, I've had a chance to read most of Nancy's book too. And you know, it's phenomenal. You know, I'm a teacher. I could do a Venn diagram of some of your principles with Crystal's story and some of the stuff that Nancy went
Cool.
through. And you know, so maybe when Nancy's come out, I'll invite you back, Donna, and you guys can have the
Absolutely.
conversation. And this is her memoir. She's had a colorful life.
It's very colorful, y'all.
Um, you know, and the last question you sent me, 20, is the most important one. I said 10, there were 20. Um, how can you use the tools in this book to create a more abundant existence? And then I love she sent me, so I'm going to be posting comment the quotes she sent me. And so when I invite you back, we'll have more people to, you know, we're quite a few that watched it, and I know there's quite a few that have said, oh, they're really enjoying the book. So thank you, Donna, and thank you for starting this. And I so highly recommend it, folks. Available on Amazon. Would you please do an Audible version of it?
Yes, it's slated.
Oh,
I
good.
just have a lot of different projects that I got working on, but it is next on my list to do the audio version. And yes, I will be reading it.
Oh,
So
good.
that's the other piece that's taking it a little bit longer, but
That's
it's
fun. That's
coming.
fun with different characters too.
Yeah.
Well, and I love when authors, I'm an Audible person, I've become an Audible. First of all, because this is a great book to be driving and listening to, and you know, it's a wonderful book to read. There's nothing like paper, but it's also very, oh, wait a minute, what did they say? This is one of those books that I would probably, and what's nice when the author reads it, especially when I'm reading along, is I can hear their intonations that
Yes.
they heard from their characters. Or if it's one of the ones I really enjoyed was My Stroke of Insight by Jill Bolte Taylor. I
Great
knew
book.
it's a wonderful book. And the Audible book, she does it. You understood her frustration. You could hear it. Just like I know I'll hear in your voice when you talk about the 4 sides of the quarter. the experience and stuff. So I'm really happy to hear that I've got it on Kindle, I've got it here. And now I will definitely, you'll have to let us know when the
I'm
Audible
gonna have
version
to
comes
give
out.
you the Abundant Soul Book Award
So,
because you have all the formats.
um, because that is such and I think it's an untapped for many new art. Nance, I'm going to say that to you too. For you to do your memoir, it's really cool when you hear the author. Now,
It is. It's super cool. I
and
know.
this is how I learned it. I was given 9 copies. Hear that number: 9 copies of the Celestine Prophecy, and I could not read them. And I finally listened to it, and Lou Diamond Phillips reads it. So it was then, over a 35-year period, 9 copies of that book came to me, and I didn't read it. And finally, 2020, I read it, but I read it with Audible too. So that was, and I had the book with me to read. So,
Well, I
I don't want
talk
to go
about
off on
that
an
with
Audible commercial, but I am. So I'm so
I talk
excited,
about
Donna.
that with Russell Brand. I mean, I had a 2 or 3 year affair with Russell Brand in my recovery because I listened to his voice over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. So there is a real powerful in the space. It helps. I swear sometimes the written word or the heard word can hit a space, just like in music, just like in whatever that
Just like in
happens.
chapter 11, where your words have one meaning, but when you listen to the underneath it, the
Yeah.
subconscious part,
The
there's
in the insights that are under the words. So thank you.
yes.
Thank you, Donna, for being here. Thank you, Nance, for joining us.
Um,
So much fun. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll be coming back with more books, and especially with we happen to have 2 authors here. So what? I'm very blessed. There's all of a sudden there's a lot of authors in my life. And boy, that is something I have put out. Like, I need to meet people who are thinkers, and authors are thinkers. So thank you both very much for being here. And thank you, Intuition of the Soul. We will see you later. Bye-bye.